So did anybody happen to get the newsletter and know that there was actually a title to this talk today? Oh, good. I don't have to live up to it. So actually, the title of today's talk is The Heart's Desire and the Power of Effort, Living the Basis of Spiritual Power. And I also sort of renamed it Awakening Our Inner Strengths. And it's a kind of power. It's not about dominating others. It's about cultivating the inner strengths that lead to liberation. The Buddha spoke of 4 inner powers: desire, wholesome desire, effort and energy, focused mind, also known as concentration, and wise investigation. And they're not distant ideals, but they're really living strengths that awaken joy and clarity and resilience in everyday lives. And so I'm going to draw on the suttas and some modern teachers and some personal stories that I'd like to help you discover how these qualities can empower your practice in daily life. So first I'll explain the Pali term, which is the language that was spoken at the time of the Buddha. The word is Iddhipada, Iddhipada, Iddhipada. And Iddhi's meaning is power or success, accomplishment, or potency. And pada means base or basis. So it's often hard to find the right words for translation in such an ancient language, and it's generally translated into English as bases of spiritual power or bases of mental or psychic power. And it can be said that cultivation of these 4 qualities are, to some extent, it's really essential for the success or accomplishment of any task in our domestic life, our social life, our professional life, or our religious life. But in the context of the Buddha's teachings, they refer to qualities that facilitate the development of certain mundane and then supramundane mental powers during our spiritual development. These powers aren't really supernatural tricks. They're practical qualities of heart and mind. The inner resources that allow us to keep walking the path even when life feels difficult. So in Buddhism, Iddhipada, the Pali word for the basis of power, point to something different: the inner strength that makes awakening possible. The Buddha taught 4 bases of power as qualities that give us energy and direction to walk a path. So I'll go over the 4, I'll break them down, and then I'll summarize them later. The 4 bases are Chanda, 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 which is wholesome desire. You might be familiar with tanha, which is the other word for desire, like grasping and clinging. But this is Chanda, it's a wholesome desire, aspiration. It's the heart's motivation. And there's viriya, Viriya. Viriya is persistence or energy, effort. And citta, Citta, is focus of mind. It's thoughtfulness and intention. And then vimamsa, 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 is investigation, discrimination and wisdom. Sometimes it's also called panya. It's wisdom in action. And so when these 4 qualities come together, the Buddha said that they generate the kind of spiritual strength that makes awakening possible. So let's explore each one, and weaving together the Buddha's words and some wisdom of teachers and some everyday stories that remind us of these powers that are alive and accessible in our own lives. So Chanda, the power of desire or aspiration. the heart's motivation. Chanda is sometimes mistranslated as craving, but here it means wholesome desire, the aspiration that pulls us toward freedom. And it's not about, I want this new car or I want to win an argument. It's about the deep wish to cultivate kindness, wisdom, and release from suffering. And so it starts with the heart's wish. Without Chanda, the path is dry, like setting out on a long journey without knowing why you're walking. The first base of mental power, Chanda, can be translated as intention or zeal, aspiration, inspiration, will, or wholehearted desire to attain, reach, or fulfill or accomplish a certain task. No task can be started or accomplished without this primary requirement of desire, which will help us to persevere to face any possible distractions or obstructions. The desire here is of such a firm nature that nothing internal or external can negatively affect its progress until its full accomplishment. Joseph Goldstein puts it beautifully when he says, "We often confuse desire with attachment, but there is a wholesome desire that fuels practice, the desire to be free. And this is the aspiration that keeps us returning to the cushion, to the breath, and to the present moment." I remember once planting a garden in late spring, and I had this little packet of sunflower seeds. When I put them in the ground, there was a kind of faith, not knowing what storms might come, or if the soil would be kind enough. But the desire was there. May these seeds grow tall. And sure enough, some of them did, stretching toward the sun. Chanda is like that. It doesn't guarantee the outcome, but it places the seed of aspiration in the ground of our hearts. Whether it's the desire to be more patient with our families, to deepen our practice, or simply to live with more awareness. This kind of desire is what makes the path possible. The Buddha carefully distinguishes Chanda, or wholesome aspiration, from what I mentioned before, something that we're more familiar with, craving or tanha. Chanda is not clinging or grasping like tanha, but rather the heartfelt wish to grow, to cultivate what is good. And the well-versed monk of current day, Bhikkhu Bodhi, explains Chanda is desire transformed by wisdom, desire that directs itself toward liberation. In the Samyutta Nikaya, one of the many published teachings of the Buddha says to his followers, whatever a person frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of the mind. Whatever a person frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of the mind. This can mean that when our aspiration is wholesome, our whole life begins to bend in that direction, just as a tree leans towards sunlight. Ajahn Chah, a famous Thai forest monk, offered this image. If we don't plant a seed, we won't get a tree. If we don't want the fruit, we won't put in the effort to water it. Chanda is that initial spark that makes us say, yes, I want freedom. Yes, I want compassion. Yes, I want to live with more clarity and kindness. Modern teachers often remind us that aspiration doesn't have to look grand. Sharon Salzberg suggests that even something as simple as, I want to be kinder today, is an expression of Chanda. It's the motivation that draws us back to the cushion, to the precepts, to patience in daily life. Before his awakening, Gautama Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree and made the firm aspiration, let only skin, sinew, and bones remain, and let the flesh and blood dry up in my body. I will not give up this seat until I have attained what can be attained by human strength, human energy, human striving. That's Chanda at its most powerful. The heart's unwavering desire for truth. And then we have the second base of power, which is viriya, the power of persistence, energy, or effort. If Chanda is the wish, viriya is the muscle. It's what gets us out of bed in the morning to sit. Even when the mind whispers, stay under the blanket, it's warm in here. I often just pull the sheet up over my head after the alarm goes off. There is not very much viriya there at that present time, but eventually. How many of you have heard of the Dhammapada? Yeah, it's a well-known collection of teachings of the Buddha that are spread throughout the suttas. And in one of the verses, the Buddha suggests, you yourselves must put in effort. The Buddhas only point the way. Effort, viriya, is woven throughout the entire Buddhist path. It appears in the Noble Eightfold Path as right effort. It's in the 7 factors of awakening and among the 10 paramis, the 10 perfections. A desire or a will to do something isn't sufficient unless it's accompanied by appropriate effort or energy to persevere with the task until its completion in the face of distractions and obstacles that we may encounter on the way. A seeker with adequate effort will not hesitate to begin the spiritual journey even when advised that it is going to be an arduous and long journey filled with innumerable hardships. A seeker with adequate effort will not be discouraged and will not slow down or give up the journey, even when experiencing setbacks and severe hardships on the way. On the other hand, a seeker with weak effort and energy will either not begin the task of the spiritual journey when warned of possible hardships and lengthy periods of time involved, as some of us know, or will be discouraged and even give up in the face of setbacks and hardships when perseverance and more effort is called for. But effort doesn't mean gritting our teeth and forcing ourselves. It's not that kind of striving. It means steady, balanced persistence, knowing when to apply energy and when to rest. The Iddhipada Sutta teaches that persistence, when coupled with mindfulness and concentration, become a base of power that carries practice forward. Bhikkhu Bodhi, I don't know if any of you have ever studied with him. He offers sutta studies on Saturdays. He's in New York now, and he has been the translator for many of the well-known suttas. And he's a current monastic, and he describes viriya as a sustained energy that prevents both stagnation and excess strain. Kind of sounds like equanimity, a sustained energy that prevents both stagnation and excess strain. It's not simply grinding willpower. The Buddha compared it to tuning a lute. If the string is too tight, it breaks. And if it's too loose, it doesn't make the right sound. And in the same way, viriya is energy balanced with wisdom. This can take persistence. It's not about doing it once. It's about engaging again and again. And that might mean returning to the breath 1,000 times in meditation, or returning to forgiveness in a difficult relationship, Each return is an act of viriya. We don't practice because it's easy. We practice because it's possible. That's what Sharon Salzberg says. Effort is what bridges the gap between aspiration, Chanda, and realization of freedom from suffering. Nature offers a really beautiful image, a river slowly carving a canyon. It's not dramatic or forceful at any one moment, but through steady persistence, it transforms stone itself. Sayadaw U Tejaniya, one of my teachers and my teacher's teacher, lives in Burma. He's the abbot at Shuyomin Dhammasukha Forest Meditation Center in Yangon, Myanmar. And he often reminds his students that effort isn't about straining. If you push too hard, the mind gets tight. If you're too loose, it gets lazy. He says right effort is like tuning a guitar string, not too tight, not too loose. If you push too hard, the mind gets tight. If you're too loose, it gets lazy. It reminds me of once I decided to take long walks for better health. I'm still sort of struggling at that, but hey, the first week I did it, it was glorious. This was like last fall when I started. The second week, it rained every day. And one morning I looked out the window, I saw the downpour, and of course I thought, no way. But something sort of nudged me. Just put on your shoes, just step outside. The first few steps were miserable. But soon the rhythm of my breath and the movement carried me, and the rain didn't matter. That's viriya, the persistence to take the first step, even when conditions aren't perfect. Ajahn Chah used to say that monks should practice like ants. Ants don't stop to complain or analyze. They just keep walking toward food, one step at a time. Persistence, little by little. It creates great strength. It's said that energy is the bridge between intention and realization. In daily life, effort might mean getting up 10 minutes earlier for meditation or pausing before reacting in anger. And these small acts of persistence build inner strength over time. It's as if you watch a mountain river flow steadily against a large boulder, day after day, year after year. The water carves its way around and even through stone. Effort is like that. Not dramatic force, but steady persistence that transforms even what seems unmovable. Now we have the third base of citta, the power of mind, focus, and intention. Citta is sometimes translated as the mind, but here it means the gathering of the heart mind, the power of focus and attention. Without citta, our energy scatters, and we may aspire to practice and even put in the effort. But if our minds are wandering in every direction, the power is diluted. As I mentioned earlier, whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of the mind. So it's really interesting to find ourselves when we're lost in thought about something, we're thinking about something, and all of a sudden this light bulb goes out. Oh yeah, whatever I frequently think and ponder upon, that will become the inclination of my mind. The mind is an essential component as a base of mental power in our spiritual journey. Even if we have strong desire and effort in carrying out a particular task, we also need to be always conscious and mindful of the task in hand in order to carry it out to its full accomplishment. You need to make a total commitment to the wholesome task at hand without allowing the mind to stray away from the task. We have to be thoughtful and mindful of the ultimate spiritual goal on a continuous basis to know where we are at a particular stage in the process. And so when wholehearted attention is consistently paid to the task, it will inform us when more effort is needed and when perseverance is called for in order to complete the task successfully. What we incline our minds toward, kindness, awareness, steadiness, grows stronger over time. Chitta is the gathered quality of the mind, the ability to direct awareness fully and steadily. The Buddha highlights Chitta as a power base that supports concentration or samadhi, which in turn supports wisdom. Bhikkhu Bodhi explains that Iddhipada means the deliberate directing of attention again and again. It's the cultivated steadiness that makes practice fruitful. Without Chitta, our energy is scattered, and with it, we find presence and clarity. This is why in practice, we bring our attention back to the breath or another anchor, resting in awareness again and again, 1,000 times, again and again, going back to the breath, that steadiness of developing concentration, of developing the mind's strength. Ajahn Sumedho put it simply. He says, Chitta knows. It's not about what arises. It's not about the thoughts, really, or the feelings or the experiences, but it's about the quality of knowing itself. When the mind is collected, we can rest in awareness rather than being pulled around by every passing storm. And so it's just the knowing directly, like sound coming to the ear, just direct knowing without getting caught in the feelings and the experiences and the thoughts. And so the mind becomes collected. And this collectedness has everyday value too. Think of how transformative it is when someone gives us their complete attention. No phone, no distraction, just presence. That's Chitta in action. Not only in meditation, but in relationships, in work, in listening. Chitta, when cultivated, gives us that quality of being fully here. Not halfway in yesterday or drifting into tomorrow, but gathered in this moment. Ajahn Chah once noted that the untrained mind is like a restless monkey, leaping from branch to branch. We've heard this from a variety of places. The monkey mind. And Chitta is training that monkey to sit quietly, not through force, but by offering it something steady and nourishing to rest on. As Sharon Salzberg puts it, the mind is like a puppy. It wanders off, it gets distracted, it chews the furniture. Our job is not to scold it, but to patiently, lovingly bring it back. That's Chitta. The steady return, the gathering of attention. Chitta knows. The knowing itself is peaceful, even if what is known is not peaceful. So Chitta, that knowing itself, that is peacefulness, just the knowing, even if what we're knowing is not peaceful. On a retreat once, I remember sitting in the hall where candles were placed on the altar, and a draft came through the window, and the flames wavered, constantly wavered, but they didn't go out. And watching them, I realized that this is what Chitta is like. The mind can waver, but if intention is steady, The flame doesn't extinguish. In this age of constant notifications, Chitta is revolutionary. Training attention lets us reclaim our lives from distraction. And practically, we cultivate Chitta through mindfulness of breathing, steadying attention gently, returning again and again. Each return strengthens the power of focus and brings us one more moment of purification of the heart-mind, beautifying the mind. And we come to the last base of power. It is vimamsa, Vimamsa. There's that M-A-M that sounds like A-N-G, vimamsa. The stress is on the second syllable. It's the power of investigation, wisdom in action. So the fourth base, vimamsa, it's also sometimes referred to as panya, is investigation. It's inquiry and discrimination. It's the power of wisdom that keeps us from blindly striving in the wrong direction. Vimamsa has several meanings: investigation, discrimination, examination, reasoning, analysis, ingenuity. Wisdom is perhaps the most significant of the four bases of the mental powers in terms of its role in facilitating the process of liberation from suffering to enlightenment. A spirit of investigation is necessary throughout the process of developing the mental powers and also maintaining and facilitating the other three bases. Vimamsa is a spirit of curiosity and discernment. It's the spirit of inquiry. It's the curious, investigating mind that asks, what is this? What are the causes and conditions here? Where does this lead? In the Kalama Sutta, a very popular sutta, the Buddha encourages this quality, warning against blind faith. He says, do not go by reports, by traditions, or by hearsay. But when you know for yourselves that these qualities are skillful, then you should enter and remain in them. That's vimamsa. It's not skepticism, but it's wise investigation, seeing for yourself. Not by tradition, not by hearsay, not by other people's reports, but by seeing for yourself. That's why the practice seems to be simple, even though it's hard. It can be described as curiosity rather than control, and it's not harsh analysis, but an openness to see how things actually work. It can be called listening with the whole body. This investigative quality keeps practice from becoming mechanical, and it prevents us from just going through the motions. Instead, we're invited to look freshly. I'm always asking myself, what does impatience feel like right now? Because I'm a pretty impatient person. I waver between impatience and being sleepy. Busy mind or no mind, flat mind. So I'm always asking myself, what does this feel like right now? Really, the investigation of it, rather than pushing it away or quickly changing to something else. It's just, what does it feel like right now? What is its cause? How does it pass? So as I investigate the impatience, I might be able to notice when it passes. How did it pass? Ajahn Brahm describes it playfully as the scientific method of Buddhism. Observe carefully, test the teachings, and see for yourself. It can be applied in daily life as much as in meditation. Stuck in traffic. Instead of fuming, we can ask, what's happening in my body right now? Or how is my mind responding? That gentle inquiry is already liberating. Sayadaw U Tejaniya emphasizes the role of investigation in meditation when he says, mindfulness alone is not enough. We must pair it with discernment, with wise attention, to see clearly what leads to suffering and what leads to freedom. So that's why as we pay attention with mindful awareness arising in our practice, we might also see that wisdom arises to clearly let us know whether something that we're paying attention to is wholesome or unwholesome. And we can incline the heart and mind toward the wholesome. A meditator once told me about being on a retreat and noticing that she was getting tense every time she focused on her breath. And she kept pushing, thinking, I must do this right. Finally, she remembered the instructions to investigate. She asked herself, what's actually happening here? And then she noticed the tightness was from striving too hard. And she softened her effort, and suddenly the practice opened up. I like to call that the boat that turned around. We see what's happening, what's actually happening. We're present. We open up to what's actually happening. And what could have been tension can just open up to something much more relaxing. We can notice vimamsa, that the wisdom to see that this isn't working. And so let me try another way. Once I was hiking in a bamboo forest near my home on Maui, where I lived for 35 years. And I took the wrong turn. And I don't know if anyone here has ever hiked through bamboo. But if you get lost in bamboo, you get really lost. You can't tell where the sun is. And I heard the sound of the stream. When we first went over this stream, the stream was going that way to my left. I heard the sound of the stream. I thought, okay, good. I can just go to the stream and then go from there. Well, when I got down there, the stream was going the other direction. That really threw me for a loop. And I couldn't, all I could see was sky, but I couldn't see where the sun was. So I couldn't figure out east and west and all of that. So I was really lost. I had this red poncho in my backpack, and I thought, oh, am I going to have to bundle up in my red poncho and just sleep here until I figure out something in the morning? Or, there was no cell phone service, so I couldn't, can I wave down? Can I call 911 and wave somebody down? No cell phone service. Well, I did happen to have a topographical map in my backpack. I don't know how I got that smart, but there was the topographical map in my backpack. And I realized, of course, that I was headed in the opposite direction. I figured it out from the topical map. So that pause, to reflect, to investigate, to look at the map, it saved me from a very long detour or having to sleep in the forest with only my bright red poncho to keep me warm. Vimamsa works like that in practice. It keeps us from running down blind alleys, reminding us to check, is this wholesome? Is this leading to freedom? Or am I reinforcing old habits? One afternoon, stuck in traffic, I felt irritation boiling up. But instead of venting, I asked, what does this feel like in my body? I noticed heat in my chest, tightness in my jaw. That curiosity started dissolving the story, leaving just pure sensation to be known directly. Investigation turned irritation into mindfulness. In science, inquiry drives discovery. In practice, it prevents blind faith and stale routine. Investigation keeps mindfulness alive, ensuring that we're not checking out, but actually seeing what's happening with clarity. So if we bring all these together, the four bases of power, they aren't meant to be practiced in isolation. They support one another. So let's go over them again. Chanda, that gives us the heart's aspiration. Viriya gives us the steady effort to keep going. Chitta gathers the mind into focus. And Vimamsa ensures that our energy is directed wisely. And so when combined, these four bases, aspiration, energy and effort, collected focused mind, and investigation, form what Bhikkhu Bodhi calls the foundations of all accomplishment, spiritually or worldly. They're like the four wheels of a cart. If one is missing, the cart won't roll. Together they create the conditions for awakening. So let's just take a few moments to have a little reflection and practice. So just let those words settle and sit comfortably. Let your body settle and take a breath. And we'll take a little time for each of these questions. What is my aspiration right now? There's Chanda. What is my aspiration right now? What small effort can I make in this moment toward that aspiration? That's Viriya. What small effort can I make in this moment toward that aspiration? Can I bring my attention fully here to the breath or the body? And can I gently investigate? Does this lead to more peace, more ease, more clarity? These four questions can guide us moment by moment on the path. What is my aspiration right now? What small effort can I make in this moment toward that aspiration? Can I bring my attention fully here to the breath or the body? And can I gently investigate, does this lead to more peace, more ease, or more clarity? The Buddha gave us these bases not as an abstract theory, but as tools. And they're real superpowers of practice, not power over others, but powers that free the heart. And just take another breath there while you're pondering this. And I'd like us to take a little time to reflect and share if anything came up around this or what you might want to share from that reflection. Let's see if there's anybody online that wants to say anything, but first I'll give you opportunity here in the room to share, and we might be able to hear people online from my speaker if it's still paired to the iPad, but let's start here. Margaret?
Margaret, she, her. I just had a question. What's the difference between chitta and concentration?
Well, yeah, I guess I can use that. Well, chitta is it's the gathered quality of the mind, and it's what directs our awareness fully and steadily. So really concentration is what is being developed. So chitta and concentration are quite similar. They can overlap each other in their definition. Mm-hmm. It's the focused mind, which is what concentration is. Anybody else have anything they want to mention? Did anything come up as a possible aspiration right now, or a little bit of effort that you need to make something happen? Or
what small step I can take for developing self-love? Like if my inspiration to increase self-love, what little step can I do just right now at this moment?
did you hear him online? He wanted to know if his aspiration was to have increase self-love, what would he do right now? And in our practice, one of the simplest things to do is to invoke loving kindness for oneself. To, like some of those phrases that I used when we were sitting, may I be at ease. May I love myself just the way I am. May I be with things the way they are. And one of the things that the Buddha suggested, which is really fascinating, is that we reflect upon our good deeds. That when we reflect upon our good deeds, and I don't know about you, I know I do a lot of good deeds, but I can't ever remember them. I'm sure if I thought about it, I must have done at least one or two good things yesterday, but I can't remember these things. We're so habituated to, kind of notice the negative and not really go toward the positive. So there's a constant inclination of the mind toward letting go of what's unwholesome and training the heart and mind toward what's wholesome. And, that can be having kindness for oneself. And sometimes people do the metta practice. May I be at ease. May I have happiness and the causes of happiness. May I be free from suffering for a very long period of time, just for themselves, before others. Because, the Buddha taught that we are, we deserve this kind of freedom, and who else is more important to give love to than ourselves? And then we share that with others. And just in using a couple of those phrases, like may I be at ease, or may I have ease and well-being, or be safe and protected, that builds up concentration in the mind because you're doing a single thing with the mind. So is that a good enough answer? Thank you, Sasha.
Continuous little things that
to flow in the right direction. Yeah, yeah. Margaret, I'm going to play around here with my speaker. Go ahead and speak, and let's see if we can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. It
Okay,
went right
good.
through the system. Good.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, Margaret, she, her. And my comments kind of follow what Sasha was just saying. I notice that I'm not sure if it's because of the aging process. It might in partly be, but um, to inspire myself to exercise, I find that it really does take a fair amount of effort and energy. And I've been in that effort and energy mode all pretty much all summer, and really for a long time. And but I've injured myself. I have an injury from hiking last weekend, and it's really not healing very well. And I think in part it's not healing very well because I've habituated, like you mentioned, uh, my thoughts and my energies are focused on uh, keeping my energy up and exercising. And but now I have to heal so I'm faced with this dilemma.
Yeah.
And it does require some wisdom and some gentleness. And I realized that that's what I'm going to need to really work on, combining those two.
Mm.
And then I'll have a good chance of healing a whole lot better because it's reflected in my body when I do those things.
Mhm.
So it's quite fascinating. I have to say it's kind of difficult, but
Sure.
I'm gonna,
Sure.
work at it. Yeah.
I know the story,
Yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of it takes patience.
Right.
There we go back to a different part of the practice,
Yeah.
dealing with patience when things aren't going the way that we want them to. Or
Right.
thank you for sharing, Margaret. And I hope the healing goes quickly.
Thank you.
Mhm. Gavin, would you like to say something? I see your hand.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could put that phrase, the Iddhipada, in the chat so I can look up that sutta later.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm on my iPad. So let me see how much dexterity I have in copying and pasting and finding which one it actually was. I think I said that back at the beginning, didn't I?
Yeah, it was towards the beginning.
Yeah. There's all the reference to Iddhipada, but I have to scroll for a while. Would you like to tell me while I'm scrolling if any of those phrases and reflections that we just did had any take for you?
I mean, yeah, it just seems like this is something that kind of fuels kind of the whole practice in a way. Um, and I've been asked, someone asked me recently, like, oh, you keep doing this meditation thing every day, like what keeps you going back? And I didn't know how to answer that question really, and now I guess the answer is Varia keeps me coming back.
There's a good point. Yep. Yep. Oh, I think I did it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a miracle. You're so welcome. Anybody else in the room have anything they'd like to share? We're coming up upon the bottom of the hour, and we'll end the meeting on time anyway, because now this device only has 12% left. Because I took away the charging to put in the recording system. So I will mention that these teachings are offered freely, and it is of great joy that I am able to come and to offer the Dhamma. And I would just like you to know that you can go to the Pacific Northwest Meditation website. That's the best thing to tell you to do online. And over here we have a Donna basket, and we have QR codes for Venmo and Zelle directly and PayPal. And the thing that's really wonderful about giving, the Donna was the first of the three, Well, Dana, Sila, and Bhavana are three very important practices together in the Buddhist teachings. And Dana was taught first, before the meditation practice, and even before ethical behavior of Sila. That Dana is that of generosity, of being able to give of yourself, however that is, in time, in resources, even just giving yourself the practice. So I feel really honored to be able to get together with people who come and share the Dharma that has inspired me for over 35 years and keep hanging in there. And so, Ed, it's nice to see you online. Thanks for being here, and best regards to your wife. And I'll just see if anybody else online wants to speak before we end the meeting, and then we can still have conversation here in the room.
Kendall,